Baltimore Ravens have found their stride over the last handful of weeks, and that includes a very promising rookie class. Kyle Hamilton took up for his fellow position mate in Malaki Starks, dunking on his haters. We talk about that and so much more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Oestreicher, Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and now the #1 sports podcast network. Appreciate everybody for being here today. And of course, thank you to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners. If you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. We have 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage and content here for you. And we have a jam-packed episode today. Kyle Hamilton, he dunked on the Malaki Starks haters, and I think he was right in what he said, so we'll talk about that in the first part of the show. We'll also dive into Colin Cowherd, giving a little bit of an interesting Ravens take. Some might call it bold. Then in the final part of the show, we'll talk about how good the Ravens should actually feel at this point in the year, being 4-5, being on the streak that they're on with the schedule that they have. Want to tell everyone today's episode of Locked On Ravens is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Here with me today to dive into everything is former Ravens receiver and Super Bowl champion Qadry Ismail of Missile Training and MissileTraining.com, as well as the Locked On Ravens Squad show. And Q, Ravens they're on a bit of a streak right now. You got a couple of other games that you should hopefully win, and the Browns and the Jets. Can't pencil it in, obviously. This is the NFL after all, any given Sunday, but I'll tell you what, I'm feeling a lot better about this team now than I was a couple weeks ago.
Well, I tell you, we were talking about how you're going to get back to 500. The only way you're going to get back to 500 is by stringing together wins. And after they played Chicago, it was right clear in front of them that there were 2 weeks, Miami, and what did that look like? And then the necessary 2 weeks to really get back to 500, which was the Vikings and now the Cleveland Browns. So from a Cleveland Browns perspective, it's a division game. Doesn't really matter what you're looking at from a record standpoint or the different rosters. It's a division game. All you got to do is look at the Bills playing up against the Miami Dolphins and recognize it's a division game. So with that said, yes, they are playing some great football right now, stringing together the Chicago, the Miami, obviously the Minnesota Vikings game. 2 of those games were on the road. Now comes this division game. Because if you look at the totality of the AFC, you're more than likely going to have to win out through the division, AFC North champion, to get into the playoffs. I don't know if you're going to see a second team that finishes second in the AFC North make the wild card. So you're looking at win the division. And the fact that Cleveland is standing in their way to get back to 500 and get back into the conversation and solidify yourself as a division leader, win the division through the Cleveland Browns.
You got to do it. And it's actually that schedule quirk is super interesting where you play Cleveland twice and you're finished with them before you even play Cincinnati or Pittsburgh once. But you have a lot of division games coming up. And again, the Ravens have the star power. We know Lamar Jackson is back and healthy and looking good out there. We know the star power they have outside of him on offense and defense. But Q, this has been, in my opinion, a full team effort over these last 3 weeks to get back to 4-5 from that 1-5 hole you dug yourself. And a lot of that, in my opinion, has to do with some of the rookie class stepping up in a big way, namely Malaki Starks, who I think got a lot of flack earlier in the season. You and I came on here and said, look, it wasn't great early for Malaki, but he is a rookie, and that stuff sometimes happens to rookies, where we saw with Kyle Hamilton a couple of years ago, where he had a couple of rough weeks to start his career. And now look at him, one of the best players in the NFL defensively. Malaki was going through a little bit of a rough stretch early, but he certainly found himself over these last couple of weeks. And according to PFF, the last 2 games Malachi's played in, 92.7 PFF grade, 2 receptions for 10 yards allowed. That's incredible. He has 2 interceptions and a 16.7 passer rating allowed. So Malaki is stepping up to the plate. And speaking of Kyle Hamilton, he was asked about Malachi's progression during his rookie season, and he said, all right, God forbid a rookie takes more than 7 games in the NFL to get adjusted, kind of dunking on the haters a little bit who are saying, all right, he's already a bust after 5 games. Oh, no. He said, all right, well, yeah, look, a rookie sometimes takes more than 7 games to get acclimated. And he said, quote, Malachi's progressing just fine, and it's no surprise to us. You saw that in the offseason. He's 21 years old, but he acts like a 31-year-old, like he's been in it for 10 years. He's back there making calls. He's back there encouraging guys in the locker room. All this stuff, you can see why he was so high on the Ravens board, and I'm sure a lot of other teams' boards and why people at UGA speak so highly of him. That's just the guy he is and the player he is. He's just been showing you the past few weeks. And I told him after the game, he's only going to build on that. I can see it in him. He's going to get so much better, and he's going to be a problem. So for you, Q, what have you seen from Malaki over these last couple of weeks? What have you seen in terms of progression from him over the first couple weeks of the season compared to where he is now?
I think the confidence level that you see in Kyle Hamilton speak about him, it comes from the word poise. When a young player comes into the league, you're seeing the rapid movement of this high intensity sport. And within that rapid movement, you got to figure out what your assignment is at a moment's notice and then ultimately execute the play, like make it. Defensively for Malaki, it's clear it's playing that deep middle, but at the same time, also recognizing the different flows of the route combinations. What's my assignment on those said route combinations, and don't get beat deep. The poise of it all comes from when you're able to slow it down, to not get overwhelmed, to not look lost, to keep your technique in play. I think what we've seen the last few weeks, especially picking up that second interception, is just that. Like, I trust my eyes, I trust my athletic ability, I'm trusting my technique. Then that tells me that in practices, he's been working very diligently to hone in his craft. And that's where the fruit of his labor has shown up during the game. You don't just make plays by accident in this league. You make plays during a week of practice via film study, and then when your number is called, you're just so ready and confident that your athletic ability takes over, and you're able to go ahead and, in this particular case, make some great interceptions and also make sure that you're not giving up any big plays on the back end of things. Awesome job by Malaki Starks, and great job recognizing it from a leadership standpoint and calling it out in Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah, I love that little jab to say, oh, yeah, look, a rookie sometimes takes more than 7 games to get adjusted. Okay, breaking news. And I think it's okay to criticize a player when they're not playing well and, struggling a little bit. Malaki certainly was, and that's okay. But that is also part of the rookie process, and why I didn't want to write Malachi's story early and say, oh, okay, well, 7 games in or 5 games in or whatever. Okay, he's not an NFL player. That was way too premature for me. And I said, look, it's okay to say he's struggling right now, but there's still a long season to go. He still has multiple years to figure this thing out, even if he doesn't turn it around this season. And he certainly has, starting to find more confidence within himself, which I think is really cool and really interesting. Q, is there anything to what the Ravens have done defensively from a more specific aspect that maybe is helping Malaki out? The Ravens obviously brought in Alohi Gilman. That has certainly freed up Kyle Hamilton, and it's obviously changed what they've done in terms of how many safeties they play, how often they play multiple safety looks. Do you think that the bye week and some of the changes schematically that we have seen so far over the first couple weeks after the bye have helped Malaki out?
So what they like to do is the 3 safety look. We know that it took a strong hit when the injury bug hit that group. When you look at Malaki, the way in which Alohi Gilman has come in, it is a situation in freeing him up, number one, to know that communication-wise, all right, here's a guy who knows what he's doing. But then also communication-wise, Malaki is now able to discover the art of deception. So as opposed to just playing back and, the quarterback is, I got you, whether it be CJ Stroud, obviously, you look at why am I drawing a blank on the Rams quarterback, Matthew Stafford? Thank you. But then you look at some of these veteran quarterbacks, Jared Goff, heck, even the first game with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. Those first few weeks with those stud level quarterbacks, you're looking at Malaki just like, okay, I'm just going to do my assignment only. Once he kind of got more familiar and you add in an Alohi Gilman, it calms you. You now know another guy knows his assignment and he can actually help you execute your assignment. That's the deception part of it all. Now I can kind of cheat up at the line of scrimmage, knowing I'm going to be dropping back deep. But I also know Alohi is going to know his position, and I don't have to worry and be concerned whether or not he's going to make a mistake or not make a mistake, or is it going to be me or whatever it might be. So that's where I see the big jump. I see that Zach Orr gives him the flexibility to do what he needs to do, but it's all based upon the fact that you have another running mate to go along with Kyle Hamilton and yourself in Alohi Gilman that gives you that advantage that you're looking for so you can play freer. Again, you even look at the interception that he had against the Vikings. He had a chance just to play freer. And so now you're playing that center field. You're not necessarily worried about that backside guy because your eyes are taking you to the throw. The pressure that caused J.J. McCarthy to step up in the pocket, well, that's on him. All I know is he's throwing me up a gift, and I can trust my eyes and my athletic ability to make the interception. That's growth. That's part of the scheme, and that's why he's having that success.
And it's not like he ever lost his ball skills. It's not like he ever lost his, intangibles or his range. It was just a matter of getting it right. The Ravens clearly believed in Malaki. His teammates believed in him. I agree with you, Q. I thought it was really cool what Kyle had to say in his defense. So seems like the pieces are coming together for him. Hopefully he can continue to stack on those performances. Coming up in the second part of the show, we'll be diving into what Colin Cowherd had to say about the Ravens, as well as some breaking news. So be sure to stay tuned. Plenty coming your way here on Locked On Ravens. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. As the days get shorter and the nights come earlier, it can start to feel a little heavier, especially when life is already packed with work, family, and everything else. This season, it's so important to reach out and check in with friends, family, or even yourself. Just like checking on a teammate or reconnecting with someone you haven't seen in a while can lift your spirits. Reaching out for therapy can make a real difference too. BetterHelp makes that first step easier by connecting you with a licensed therapist online from wherever you are. Therapy isn't just for when things are falling apart. It's about staying balanced and growing through the tough seasons. BetterHelp matches you with a therapist who fits your needs, and you can switch anytime if it's not the right match. Over 5 million people have used BetterHelp, and with 30,000 therapists available, finding support is really just a few clicks away. This month, don't wait to reach out. Whether you're checking in on a friend or reaching out to a therapist yourself, BetterHelp makes it simple to take that first step. Listeners get 10% off their first month at BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNFL. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNFL, because taking that step towards support might just leave you wondering, why didn't I do this sooner? Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher and Qadry Ismail still rocking out with you here on this Wednesday edition of the show. Appreciate everyone again for being here, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen each and every single day. We have 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage. All right, Q, I got some breaking news for you. Not from a current Ravens player, but from someone the Ravens traded, Jaire Alexander. He is back in the news again. We're recording this right as this dropped. I think we started right as it dropped, but wanted to dedicate a little bit of time to it here. Former Ravens cornerback Jaire Alexander, now a member of the Eagles. According to Daniel Rossini at The Athletic, has informed the Eagles he is stepping away from the team to focus on getting right physically and mentally, and he's contemplating retirement as well at 28 years old. So, we heard from Jaire. We talked about it a little bit. I know Sam and I talked about it on our Friday show last week, where Jaire was excited for the opportunity in Philly, said it wasn't an injury thing. The Ravens had, other guys that wanted to play ahead of him and wasn't anything physically along those lines. But this now gives greater meaning to the situation. I feel like, obviously, I hope everything is okay with Jaire and, he's able to, work through things and, ideally for his sake, get back on the field. But if that's not the case, come to peace with whatever's next for him. And again, a situation that now he's on the Eagles doesn't necessarily concern the Ravens anymore. They got their 6th round pick, and that's that. But what do you kind of make of this situation, Q? Because I think a lot of people were talking about, okay, this is what Jaire said about the situation. It wasn't physical. The Ravens just wanted to play the guys over him. But this, I think, does give new meaning.
So as a performance coach, the way in which I train, the way in which I have been sounding the alarm, ringing the bell, all that with regards to players and just their performance coaches, aka strength and conditioning coaches, all of that is a situation where I am bugged and bothered by his movement patterns, putting him in a compromising position when he got injured, rehabbing with those same movement, poor performance patterns. It robbed him of his athleticism, and now he's, what is the word, second guessing his body's ability and capabilities. And so he's missing out on future earnings and playing a sport that once gone, it's gone. That is what pisses me off.
It's a tough situation all the way around. I mean, we know that when Jaire is healthy, I still believe he's top 10, 15 cornerback. But again, like, the injuries have clearly taken a toll on him. We know the player he was in Green Bay, but a lot of the question marks did happen at least through, all right, well, he has to stay on the field. And, unfortunately, it didn't happen in Baltimore. The whole training camp injury thing that, you were talking about throughout the offseason with him, and kind of with what his dad had to say about it when, he was going through that process, and how the Packers handled it. And now, coming to Baltimore, having to work through whatever he had to work through, and then just not looking right in that Buffalo game. You're kind of looking at him playing like, who is this guy out there? That's not Jaire Alexander. And then only one other opportunity, working through his body. And again, like, they've had guys play really well for them this season. Like, Chidobe Awuzie has been great. He was incredible against the Vikings in Week 10. They're playing TJ Tampa. They're playing some of these other guys. So honestly, at this point, I think it was just everything. The situation physically or mentally, or probably mentally, for Jaire was taking a toll. The Ravens did have other guys they wanted to play, and honestly, they probably didn't have time to get Jaire acclimated, considering they were 1-5. And if Jaire wasn't the player that they needed him to be, that could have cost them another game like Buffalo. So Wiggins, Humphrey, and the Awuzie trio, you have confidence there. Just hope Marlon's all right and can kind of step up as the year continues to go on. But if they do lose one of Wiggins or Awuzie, Marlon's already injured, it could get a little scary there. You'd have to rely a lot on TJ Tampa, who, hey, we've seen him step up before, but, how often do you want to use him? That's a big question as well. But the Ravens right now, Q, everybody's feeling good about the team, it feels like. Still a lot of work to do. They're 4-5. They're not out of the woods yet, but Colin Cowherd talked on the herd about Baltimore's situation. He was doing his power rankings of NFL teams, and he put the Ravens at number 7, and he said, quote, "Don't care about their record. These aren't standings. They average 30 points per game and 6.1 yards per play when Lamar Jackson plays. Also, if they play the NFC, take them. They're 25-3. I like the roster when healthy. I like the quarterback. I like the coach. Don't care much about the record. As long as they stay healthy, they'll be a playoff team. They're going to win this division." I think after you watched Pittsburgh against the Chargers, that's fairly obvious. So people seem to be getting back on that Ravens train, Q, of like, all right, this is the team again. I still think they have to figure out stuff with their offensive line. I think still the pass rush has improved, but is not quite there yet. How good do you feel about this Ravens team? Are you with Colin on this one? And you're like, all right, they're back, let's go? Or do you still need to see a little bit more?
Get to 500. This is a get to 500 proposition. I do respect, Colin. He is very thorough with his homework, extremely detailed with it all. So, I like his assessment, but get to 500. As much as you talk about the Cleveland Browns, as much as, Eddie Jackson, Freddie Jackson, and what went on last year came about. Even Kyle Hamilton dropping the game-sealing interception that was right in his hands that he missed. You know what? Shoot, you talk about that offensive line. Well, I know one person that's going to be sitting there having some nightmares. Myles Garrett is going to be coming. And whether or not be, Roger Rosengard looking for another autograph jersey from him, or whether it be Ronnie Stanley hoping his ankle ain't hurting and he's able to withstand some of the onslaught talent that is, the dominance of the Hall of Famer and what we're seeing from Myles Garrett. So get to 500. Get to 500. Yes, you're playing up against Dylan Gabriel. Yes, they have a strong, actually young running back. And so that's going to test this defense as far as their run stuffing. I think that they were, fairly good. Like they improved from week to week. And so from the Miami game into the Vikings game, especially like finishing off the game, I think they improved. So defense, has certainly come alive. And I like what they're saying. Hey, let's not have Lamar have to do it all. Let's bail him out once or twice. It is a concern about the offensive line. Were they somewhat kind of sort of better? Pancake Pat, I think, makes them better. I think the fact that we're looking at Derrick Henry like, man, skip all this, trying to follow it up. We're just going to bounce it and dip it to the outside. So that makes it better. We haven't really seen that Lamar Jackson run that has been that statement run this year. We kind of saw a taste of it in the Bills game. Remember that one? Was it? I don't know if it was a scramble or if it was a run, but we had a taste of it. But that's been really about it. We haven't really seen him like, you know what? I'm just going to bust it out. We're going to do this. We'll see. We'll see how it all, flows. So.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of different areas the Ravens can keep improving, but we at least have seen that, they're able to come out with victories. A win is a win, and you're going to have to continue stacking here for sure. And coming up in the final part of the show, we'll dive into how good this Ravens team should be feeling. We'll be talking a little bit about Lamar Jackson, talking a little bit about that Ravens and Browns game upcoming as well. So stay tuned. We got a lot coming your way here on Locked On Ravens. First, this show is brought to you by SupplyHouse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. Their part finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit SupplyHouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHNFL5 for 5% off your first order. That's SupplyHouse.com. Real people, real service. And the show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And in the NBA, I'm a big Denver Nuggets guy. Right now, over on FanDuel, the Nuggets have the second best championship odds at plus 650. Only ahead of them are the Oklahoma City Thunder at plus 210. And I like that number for Denver. I think their offseason was really good. They're off to a solid start this season. And even though the Western Conference is loaded this year, I think the Nuggets have a really good shot. Right now, FanDuel's giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Moving right along on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher and Qadry Ismail still talking with you here. Thanks again for being here. We have 5 days a week plus more of daily Ravens coverage and content. We got the regular show Monday through Friday. We have Locked On Ravens watch-alongs during games. We have bonus episodes on the weekends when there are headlines. We got instant reaction shows after games as well as after pieces of big news. And we also have the Locked On Ravens squad show twice a week. We'll have that tonight, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. Q, of course, is a part of that squad alongside myself and Sam and Joku. And Q's always good for his one awesome rant, at least per show, honestly. So if you want to see more Q and more of the squad, be sure you check that out as well. All right, Q, let's ask the question. And we kind of talked about it a little bit in that second part of the show. But for you, is this a team particularly division-wise? Because, we talked a little about in the second show about, okay, how good should they be feeling? But division-wise, the thing that Colin Cowherd said about, okay, well, you look at that Pittsburgh team and how they played against the Chargers and how actually, speaking of Pittsburgh, they actually just signed Asante Samuel Jr., so he will be probably a factor for them when the Ravens play Pittsburgh twice. So that's a big signing. For those that don't know, Samuel had the what was it, Q, a spinal fusion thing. So am I breaking this news to you? Am I breaking this news to you?
You are breaking it hot off the press right now. I was going over my notes, and I didn't have that in my notes. Go ahead and repeat that thing again. Asante Samuel Jr. Wow.
Yes. Asante Samuel Jr. is he is signed with the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's their practice squad right now. So obviously the plan is likely to have him kind of just get up to speed and then probably call him up and then get under the active roster. He had an offseason spinal fusion and was very obviously, great start to his career. Top 25 free agent, according to ESPN in March. And so he will be a factor on a Pittsburgh defense that, to put it lightly, has not looked like the Pittsburgh Steelers defense that we have known over the handful of years. So that's a big thing for them. But do you still feel good about Baltimore in this division? Because it seems like a lot of people are kind of penciling in Baltimore after what Pittsburgh has looked like. Cincinnati with that defense. We heard that Joe Burrow could maybe be coming back around Thanksgiving night-ish. I don't know how you feel about the injury he suffered in that timeline, Q. And Cleveland is Cleveland, but obviously that's the team they're playing this week. What's the AFC North look like to you right now in terms of Baltimore?
Well, I do recognize that let's get to 500. Cleveland's in the way. We talked about kind of that flow and that groove. I'm laughing because, yes, I do go on my rants. And Roly Polioli just brings it out of me. But I digress. I stick to the script. Qadry of the AFC North. Joe Burrow, I credit him, but homeboy ain't trying to be Wally pipped. He's like, oh, this is my team. Everybody like jumping on Joe Flacco, like he just all cool and everything. Joe cool. I'm Joe Burrow. I run this Joe. I'm the only cup of Joe y'all gonna have in here. So I ain't trying to have cheap owner think about some 40-year-old replacing me just to save some money. They got Paycor Stadium, put that out there so I can get some upfront cash. So therefore, Joe, you did a good job. That's all well and good, but I'm back. What's up? Good, because that means that his foot and ankle and all that entails, as much as he speeded it up, there's not going to be 100% enough in the cold when it comes up against Baltimore on that hard turf that they're going to be on. He comes here for homecoming. For Thanksgiving, it's going to feel like homecoming. Yeah. But I'm more likely, we probably will see Joe. Probably when we go there, we might be seeing Joe Burrow. So, Pittsburgh scares the heck out of me just because. I don't want to count the chickens before they hatch. It's my cautiousness because of the 1-in-5 nature and just what it is. It has to be the patience that we're looking at, and so be it.
Yeah, and that's totally, look, I'm with you. Like, I feel good about their chances of winning the division, but I'm not going to come on here and say the Ravens have won the AFC North before week 11 kicks off. You got to take care of your business. That's the end of the story there. Lamar Jackson, he's going to have to take care of his business. He certainly has so far when he's been out there healthy. He's played in 6 games, and right now, Q, stat that I'm talking about, he has a 10.2 touchdown percentage, which would rank number 1 in NFL history dating back to 1954. He's been unbelievable. The current leader since the NFL merger was completed in 1970, it is Peyton Manning at 9.9% back in 2004. You might know a little something about Peyton Manning, Q. I don't know. Maybe you know him a little bit. I'm not sure. But you also have, Ken Stabler back in 1976 with the Oakland Raiders, 9.3%. Aaron Rodgers at 9.1% in 2020. Lamar Jackson himself in 2019, he was at 9%, tied with Aaron Rodgers in 2011. Tom Brady, He in 2007 at 8.7. Lamar in 2024, last year, he was 8.6. So Lamar's no stranger to being on this leaderboard, but that 10.2 touchdown percentage would be number one since 1954, number 4 all time if you want to go back to 1943. So what he's doing this year is unbelievable, and it's just a joy to watch him every single week.
Yeah. I tell you what, like, it's so funny because when you see people who make it look easy like he does, you almost take it for granted that he's up in that upper echelon of players. Yeah, he's what I saw when Brett Favre was a 3-time MVP and my day and the way he was just unstoppable. Like there was he could do no wrong. And Lamar has done it 10 times better when it comes to like not throwing picks and just Brett is gonna throw one up to you. He ain't doing that. Like Lamar is like, nah, I'm good. His decision making is just superior, and the poise in the pocket, the ability to extend plays outside the pocket, his arm talent as far as his angles and the way in which he delivers the ball each and every time is just wow. You're a receiver's dream because you can never say, you know what, I'm not going to get the ball. Like there's opportunities for you to get the ball. So I see all of that. It's really just tremendous how and the way in which he performs.
He's unbelievable, and he'll certainly have his work cut out for him this weekend against Myles Garrett, who has 11 sacks on the year. Q. He is moving and grooving like he always does. Myles Garrett, he is absolutely unbelievable. And if you want to compare that to the Ravens' entire team has 11 sacks this season. So the Ravens and Myles Garrett have the same amount of sacks this year. How you feeling about that Cleveland game?
Roly poly oly. I am hoping to beyond hope. It slips my mind. Who's Cleveland's defensive coordinator?
Jim Schwartz.
It is Jim Schwartz? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Jim still sitting there smarting over the fact that years and years ago, John kind of stiff-armed him when he was the head coach of the Lions. So I'm sure there is no love lost between Jim and the Harbaughs. And I'm sure he's going to be like, you know what? I'm going to line up my guy, Miles, wherever I need to whoop up on y'all. Mother of pearl. Like, roly-poly and Rosengarten.
Yeah.
I'm just going to just like, I'm just pausing, just hoping that he has mercy on us. Get your sack in the first quarter so then we can play and finish off the game going into the fourth quarter, and that be that. That's what I'm hoping for. Give it up in the first quarter. From there, it don't matter.
Message to all Ravens offensive linemen: protect your quarterback from Myles Garrett. Do it. Is it easy? No.
Or you get no Christmas present.
Yeah, no Rolex, no cars,
Nothing.
no anything.
Nothing.
It'll be cold. So you got to protect your quarterback. That's what I want to see. I'm with you, Q. But I appreciate you, Q. Thanks so much for hopping on and talking Ravens with me as always. Before I get you out of here, please tell people where they can find you and what you're working on.
Yeah, man. It's missiletraining.com. Of course, you have heard me talk about missile training before. It's human movement and sports performance training. Missiletraining.com is where you can interact with me, taking whether you're an individual, doesn't matter the sport, whether you're an individual, you're an adult, and you're trying to move better and freer. Restrictions, unlock them, help yourself out. This is where you can help you be a better version. Team training as well. Doesn't matter the sport, boys, girls, men's, women's sports, college athletes, all across the board. You want some place to work out over your break? Come see me. Missiletraining.com. Of course, Locked On Network. We got Locked On Squad Show, and we got Locked On Ravens. KO and I, that's Kevin Oestreicher. Every week, we just break it down to you. We just say, hey, what's up? Talk some Ravens, talk some shop, let you know. KO is very gracious, allows me to go on my rants. But then I return the favor by allowing him to talk about things that don't make any sense when it comes to compensatory picks and whether or not we're going to win or lose a game and the value. Don't let Kevin steer you away from what's currently going on when he's talking about value and, compensatory picks. Locked On Ravens, let us break it down with you. And Sam and Joku, KO, and I, we love talking before the game, after the game. We got all your Raven needs.
Hey, that's what it's about, right? You got to balance it all out. We got the speculation, we got the game talk, we got the news, the analysis, everything over here on Locked On Ravens. And Q's rants, again, they're one of one. You don't want to miss them. They're absolutely incredible. So go check out Q Missile Training. Links all in the description down below. Q, I appreciate you as always. And thank you to everybody who watched and listened to Locked On Ravens today. Coming up tomorrow, we'll have more for the regular show. But of course, be sure to check us out tonight on the Locked On Ravens Squad show, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So be sure to stay tuned for everything we have in store. And we'll see you right back here soon on Locked On Ravens.